Good afternoon, party people. Let us stop that. There we go. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our Ecology Presents session for July. We've been on a bit of a hiatus, but that's okay because we're back to have more fun. So all the good things are happening. I'm Kristen Hancock, in case anyone doesn't know me, and I am here to talk about digital tools. Well, actually, that's a bit of a lie. I am not here to talk about digital tools because I'm not the person you want to hear from when we talk about digital tools. But rest assured, I have experts with me. So I am thrilled to welcome to the Ecology Presents Preston Lewis and Lindsay Turner. Hello, friends. How are you?
Wonderful. How are you?
I'm great. I also have a very interesting comment. My partner in life and work, Chuck Gose, is apparently joining us from an airplane. So
loving it.
So that's that. And it turns out Delta Wi-Fi does work that well that you can live stream from 30,000 feet in the sky. Erica Goodwin is here from the great state of Arkansas. Russell is here from Toronto in his backyard bunker. Love it. You got to be prepared for everything. Maybe more exciting. I don't know who wins this, if it's 30,000 feet in the sky or if it's Carrie Ann joining us from Jamaica. That's the true international global audience. And Erica's got her dog with her. So great. We love all the dogs
Even
with
better.
us. This is our first Ecology Presents in a couple of months. And the topic today is a hot topic for a lot of reasons. And it was a much requested topic because so many internal communicators, and I guess I will say communicators in general right now, are looking at digital solutions. Oh, Rhonda's here from Chicago. Love it. Lanice is here from Virginia. We have all kinds of good friends here. I love it. So many people in comms are looking at tech solutions for lots of reasons. I think COVID 2020, I will say, was a massive push, right? People realized, oh crap, we can't communicate with our employees, so we don't have a way to do that. And now I think that things are rolling into some kind of new cadence. We're evaluating. That's my anecdotal experience. So before we get too much into this, I would love for each of you to introduce yourselves, who you are, where you are, your current role. I want to know your favorite tech tool of all time, and I want to know your most annoying tech tool of all time. It does not have to relate to internal comms. So Preston, why don't you go first?
I was going to ask if it could be the same answer, but
it could be. It could be.
Yeah.
Mine is.
Well, thank you so much, Kristen, for inviting us into this, inviting me into this. My name is Preston Lewis. I'm sitting here in the San Francisco Bay Area, just north of the Golden Gate Bridge. Beautiful day today. So my day job is I run a small communications and employee experience firm called Intactic. And there's many elements to that. One that I will also, or a couple I'll also add, is a couple of new podcasts launched to dive deep into this topic that we're talking about today, called Tech Verified. So not only do the consulting work, but we also help companies save time and money when shopping for tech. And that's a lot of our work as communicators. I'll stop there, but look forward to diving in.
What's your favorite and most annoying tech tool?
Instagram.
Oh yeah.
It's my favorite and most annoying.
It's a time suck. I know.
It's a time suck. But it's my favorite for a reason.
I know.
You know, there's. I was just at something earlier or last week, and we were a similar question of what's your favorite across what platforms, and when used appropriately, there are so many benefits and advantages to Instagram. Having said all that, you're right. It's a time suck, and it can be very, very annoying. So you got to watch yourself.
Yeah, totally agree. Oh, we have people. Look at this. Carrie's here from Fargo.
Hi, Carrie.
Nobody loves Fargo outside of people in Fargo more than me. I love me some Fargo. I love it. Jennifer is here. Jen from the Burbs, like Jenny from the Block, but Jen from the Burbs. Love it. Oh, here, you got a friend in the Bay Area. There you go. And
hey, Rachel.
Another Canadian friend, Zahid, is here from Saskatchewan. Love it. Lindsay, do you want to do a little intro? Because I'm curious what your tech tool preferences are too.
Yeah, absolutely. So Lindsay Turner, I am baking here in Dallas, not enjoying the weather. We have a cool front, under 100 degrees today, so pretty big deal here, but we're surviving. We have really great AC. I have been in internal comms for the past 15, 16 years. The past 2 years have been out on my own after leaving a healthcare organization where we did 10 acquisitions in 3.5 years, launched a mobile app, sunset a mobile app, made some changes, and just really navigated through a lot of change and transformation. And so today I work with leaders to navigate the unknowns of change and transformation and growth and disruption of industries and help them build scalable and sustainable solutions so that way they can have the space to lead, but also help their cultures thrive. And digital tools is one of the main questions that comes up on that.
And your favorite and most annoying?
It is one of the hardest change managements of my personal life was password managers. When my husband and I combined them, my husband's in the finance industry. So anybody who works with the financial industry or even legal, they know the standard for technology is pretty low, and the quality, because they just don't update that software. And so he was really comfortable with one. I was really comfortable with the other. We finally figured it out, but I love it. I can't live without it. If you don't have one, call me afterwards. I'll give you a 5-minute speech on why you need it, but also why it's a little painful to get it set up.
This is marriage in 2023 is password management.
I was going to say, yes. Yep. Yeah, exactly.
I almost built a change management skill based on how difficult that was.
That's amazing. Preston, you've got a little like Bay Area crew here. Ed's here. Oh, you're in Vancouver. That's cool. Ash is here. Okay, well, listen, now it's time for a shameless plug for Mycology then, because we're doing a Camp Ecology in San Francisco in November. So if you're in the Bay Area, heads up, November 9th, I believe it is going to be our Bay Area Camp Ecology. Okay, cool. Oh, and Chuck's got a plug here. He's on his way to Dallas for Attune Unplugged, and Lindsay is joining that one. You're doing a workshop there. Look at this. It's like a little love fest happening here. I love it. It's phenomenal.
I had the honor of participating in the camp in LA early this year.
That's right.
It was so much fun. So much fun. Everything you hear about those are true.
Yes, so true. Yeah. Okay, so here's where we have a lot of ground to cover. So as always, pop your questions in the chat. If you have questions, comments, stories, annoyances, whatever. It's a safe space, but I'm going to warn you, it's also a public safe space, given that we are on LinkedIn Live. So whatever comment you're throwing out there, it's going to be saved in the internet, as everything else is. So we have an agenda, but I use that term loosely. Here's where I want to start. For anyone in whether or not you have an existing tool, whether you're like, this isn't working, we need a new one, or we have nothing and we need one, what is the very first step, question, thing, item of business that you would tell someone to do before anything else? Preston, I'm starting with you.
The very first thing is asking those that matter what would make the biggest impact in their work world. Meaning, what can we do to make your life easier at work?
I love it. That's to the point. Lindsay.
I like to ask why. Why are we looking at this? Why do we need this? And then that takes us into the who and the what and all of that. And eventually just doing an audit, figuring out where we're at now and knowing where we need to go and why we need to go there.
What if the answer to the why is this tool sucks? Is that a legitimate reason? Because here's where I'm coming from. I hear the quiet rumblings, the not so quiet rumblings of internal communicators who are like, IT or HR or marketing or whoever says I have to use product X. It's usually SharePoint. And then they don't want to use that. And so what happens then? Like what happens if the internal communicator is like, this tool is garbage, I don't want to use it, but you can't just come out and say that because that's not really a valid reason just because you don't like it to switch tools. Have either of you ever been in that situation before? Yeah, big nods.
Yeah, data talks. I mean, let's be really, what I would say about communications in the world of work today is it is faster, better, cheaper. At least it should be. And it's not necessarily the old-fashioned saying of, faster, better, cheaper, pick two. You can accomplish all three. And yes, it might be an ideal state, but just back to your question, it's not working. because of something, and there needs to be data to support that. So just sticking with, there's many examples, intranets included, SharePoint included. One of the challenges I always have with SharePoint is it's hard to get the data because you need to see how many people are going there. I mean, all the stuff that we know when we look at digital channel measurement, we call there's macro and micro, right? For a lot of things. On the channel specific or the technology specific level, it's where are we at? Someone, I think you said audit, Lindsay, right? Yes, we're asking those questions. But the other side of the coin is, well, what could it be? And that's a harder question to answer. So if we're getting X, amount of participation or engagement in these platforms or channels, what do modern channels enable? And there's different answers for different channels, right? But the magic happens when you can illustrate that gap, or create the creative tension between the two. This is where we are. This is where we could be. This is where other organizations are. Then you can start tuning into that ego piece, which is typically the context for that answer to that first question of, Lindsay, you said it, why might we do this, or what can we do to make you look good or solve your biggest challenges in your function or in our organization.
People are starting a SharePoint war in the comment section. I'll take credit for that. Are there internal comms people who are using a Salesforce?
What do you think, Lindsay?
So I've seen it both. I have seen, Preston, you and I've talked about this before, the shadow tools, the shadow channels for communications. I have seen in several organizations that sales teams, especially those who are in the field, maybe healthcare or out, visiting facilities, they use Salesforce and text message or WhatsApp. And that's where they are like, that's our number one tool. We won't use anything else. And so we have to work through that. It's amazing how creative they can get if they're forced to only have SharePoint as their comms channel. Tell
me your least favorite intranet and why is it SharePoint? I hope no one from Microsoft is watching this. I feel bad, actually. This is terrible.
Can I just to stay on that? Don't feel so bad. I've had many, and still do. Many of us probably do have conversations with Microsoft about SharePoint.
Yeah.
And they are using it, but there's a reason why they're developing more and releasing more and more applications within the Microsoft stack. If SharePoint was perfect, they wouldn't have created Viva and connections and evolve to engage. I mean, there's certain things that organizations need, channels and technology, to accomplish very important things that SharePoint doesn't solve for.
Yeah.
So they get it too.
So I'm curious. So when we talk about an audit, when someone's like, okay, we're using whatever tool, it's not working, or we don't have a tool at all and we need something, I was like, okay, let's do an audit. Are you auditing the tools or are you auditing communications?
Both.
Okay.
I think the same question. Where do you start? So what we like to do, and Lindsay, I'm really curious in your perspective, is our favorite place to start is looking at the team, the people inside the organization that ultimately need to have a role in that channel or technology being successful.
So kind of amassing your Avengers crew. I just want someone to credit me with using a superhero movie reference because I've seen one of them and I'm really proud of myself right now.
Please continue to try and
that I just used.
The reference is not working, but
do you know what I'm saying? Okay, the scene. There's this. Are you a Marvel fan, Preston?
I'm a fan of all things superheroes.
Okay, yes. There's a scene in a Marvel movie where all of them are all together, and it's like this. It's this. I don't even understand the backstory. And I was like, oh, like it was anyway. Okay. That's sort of what I'm envisioning. Like whoever is the comms pro, you've got to get your crew together. And who is on that crew? Like Lindsay, when you were in-house, who are the allies that you need to have on board like day one?
Day one for an audit or day one for a digital tool?
Well, I think when you get to the point where you need a new tool, like who are the allies you're reaching out to?
IT is number one. I always find out what their currency is. Sometimes it's craft beer, sometimes it's Chick-fil-A, sometimes it's Whataburger for breakfast. But you want to have them on board because they can tell you what is and isn't possible, especially if you're trying to find a solution that's not going to add to their list of backlog work orders to execute and implement within the organization. IT is key, HR is key because of the HRIS, the employee files. Looking all across the organization then at learning and development, who can help you implement this, who is already communicating exceptionally well and will get excited and be part of this mission to change the way the organization communicates. So if you have those strong communicators who already exist, start leveraging them and letting them be part of the conversation from the beginning, because many times internal comms teams are understaffed. I don't know that I've seen many that are fully staffed in my experience. And so you want to have those unofficial communicators throughout the organization that you can leverage from day one.
I've got an interesting rhetorical question here, Panaki. As comms folks, we don't tell IT what tech to use or HR what tech to use. So why don't they trust us to pick comms tech? Excellent rhetorical question, Panaki. I don't know if we're even going to necessarily answer that, but I guess we're not supposed to, it's rhetorical. I think there's also a bit of a first up love fest happening in the comment section. So that's kind of funny. I'll tell you what, I'll pull them up if First Up wants to pay for, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Okay. So here's what I want to, so yeah, Rhonda's saying it should be IT and HR. That seems to be the common group, right? It's comms, HR, IT that kind of need to be involved in that. Preston, when you are coming in as an outside person, and I know Lindsay, now you're in that role as well, but Preston, when you're coming in as a third party into an organization, are you typically brought in by the comms person, or is it sometimes the HR and IT people who are bringing you in? And then my follow up is like, then do you say we all need to be in the same room?
So the good news is it's all of this is getting better. So the short answer is it used to be primarily HR and then comms and then IT. Since COVID, it's been really balanced on all three legs of the stool. As I say, it's pretty obvious if one of the three legs, if you look at each of those functions representing a leg, when one of them is shorter than the others. And what does that really mean? What we've seen is that IT saw through COVID that there is a need to involve and enroll the voice of the employee, which is often represented by comms or HR, sooner rather than later. And not to gloss over Panaki's rhetorical question, because it's a fair question, but same point I was just making, we're seeing more awareness that that two-way conversation. Let's be clear, when we were saying start with IT in terms of an audit, it's not what do we have, what are we spending, when are those contracts up, what data and reports do we have for each of those platforms, who has access to the keys, those reports. We're also asking, what is it that you need to see from us when we come back with recommendations? Do you need to see us IT lower costs? Do you need to see us have a clear plan to increase adoption and participation? Auditing, listening is always a two-way street. You're both asking good questions and setting an expectation for ultimately what you need to come back with to keep them engaged. So that was just building off of Panaki's question, because as I was saying earlier, aside from the industry, when we think about the context of digital tools today, you need to be able to answer that question probably for IT, not what are you looking at or what does success look like? We were getting questions from IT like, okay, great thinking, great work y'all are doing. If this goes away, what's the impact of the organization? Because I got to find a place to save money, So we need to be prepared for all of that in the context of the IT relationship.
Lindsay, I'm just going to bring this up quickly here. So Rachel's just advocating again for this partnership. I like the concept of reducing your friction, because I think that's a big part of it too. There can be a lot of tension between those. People want ownership. We're dealing with personalities. We're dealing with who knows what baggage is coming into the organization. So we all know working together is the benefit, but Preston, I do like your question about, what do you need to see from me? Like, what's a win for you and what can I come back with so we can keep having this conversation? Lindsay, you were going to add something.
Yeah, I will add two things. One, not only what can we come back to you with in IT, but because we are still in the stage of figuring out, I like to ask, are there ways to communicate through the tools that you know already exist that we could be leveraging? That's when you'll find out that maybe the mobile device management system can do push notifications to tablets that people in the field use, or the digital signage. You have the Zoom conference rooms could also be temporary digital signage. So really unique ways to be good enough for now to help bridge the gap while you are figuring it out. And what I found is IT gets excited when you do want to use their tools and you are interested in learning what's out there and figuring out what works in what areas. And on the note of making it work and what works in what areas, really defining the channels. So why is it that they want SharePoint? A lot of times the reason they want SharePoint isn't the reason why you want a comms tool, or the reason HR wants SharePoint, or the reasons operations want SharePoint, right? Operations probably wants to store SOPs. That's not an internal comms role to manage. And so really defining those channels and what the use case is along the way with this audit. So how are we using it now? How would you like to? I think is really important, because that typically gets internal comms, in my experience, away from managing SharePoint when it is defined as a document repository.
I have a burning question that just came up. I'm going to pose it to Preston, but Lindsay, if you have an answer for this, I would love to hear it. Preston, in all of your years of working with clients and doing a lot of tech tool exploration, implementation, have you ever come across a scenario with an organization where you've done the audit, you've met with them, you've looked at the options, and realized that they don't need anything else?
Yes.
Really?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay. I want to hear about.
This just happened just recently. So this was organization, or is an organization, 3,000 to 5,000 people, owned by a holding company, heavy Microsoft users, and the problem that they still are trying to address, they thought could be solved with a new intranet, or they thought the solve was a new intranet, when really what they're looking to solve for is search. People finding information, answers to questions, the right information, meaning the right version of something faster. It wasn't that they needed something. So the work was, how do we look at their existing technology to enable better search, their governance around content, their search terms, their metadata, and that, and not spending any more money on tech, they're on the path now to solve for finding information, people, answers faster with existing tech, rather than investing in a whole new technology.
And so then that really speaks to the conversation we've all had, but Lindsay, to your previous point about this audit of who's involved, what do they need, all of that, that I assume if you are doing a thorough enough audit, you're going to uncover, oh, hey, guess what? Now, I also will preface all of this conversation. I have never worked in a large organization. I've always been at very small companies or organizations. So I forget that in massive international, enterprise companies, there could be different solutions being used by different teams or different countries or whatever that they don't even know about, right? When you're dealing with companies, I don't know, Walmart or Delta Airlines or whatever. So doing that audit and finding out some of those little pieces of, hey, this tool, someone's using this tool already, or this tool actually offers this, we just haven't been using it.
Mm-hmm.
So now we can, or now we know we need it, or something like that. Funny, now there's a conversation here. Oh, Sagar had a comment about SharePoint's usually inherited. I agree. That's my experience too, or ends up sticking with it because they already have it and it's free. That's my favorite SharePoint argument. Oh, it's free. I'm like, SharePoint's never free. Good point. Good point.
Can we just stand up for one more second? Because it's absolutely true. I was just doing another project, and there was a cost concern around investment in an email platform.
Okay.
And I asked this simple question as part of the discovery work: how much are we spending on Microsoft? And they're like, well, there's so many applications. Like, oh, of course we understand all of that.
And they were like, get out of the room, Preston.
But it was millions and millions was the answer to the question. And that goes back to, well, what if we used what we had in a more intelligent, strategic way, rather than be as concerned as we're being about new technology acquisition. What are our variables to reduce cost? Because Microsoft, they want you to use the right tools for the right reasons too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't not mention that because it was the first time somebody asked the question.
Please do. And also I just want to let you know that you and Chuck can have a fight later because he's saying I'm not buying what Preston is selling on Microsoft's excuses. Yeah, this is from earlier. What a poop disturber. Okay, what I also want to, so now one of the other, on this note about SharePoint and also about working with your champions within your organization, I want to talk about the B word, which is budget. So great segue, Preston. You're talking about people analyzing what are we paying now and how can we, I'm going to say, be creative with dollars, right? I mean, I'm seeing even from an ecology standpoint, people telling me I have no PD money anymore. We can't build money in for extra tools for at least the next year or two or whatever that is. So Lindsay, I'm curious if you, in your experience in-house or consulting, if you've been able to get creative with dollars, like legally creative. This is a G-rated show. I don't want the IRS coming after me. To make things happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So creative accounting, it's one of those words people don't realize they're numbers people until they have to work to get what they need to be successful. And one of the things I like to start with is, okay, where are we at? What tools do we have? What are we spending? But then also look at, by not communicating in the most effective way, how much time, how many resources are we losing by not moving in the direction that is a more sophisticated, a smarter way? Are we using time on our team? I have a team that I worked with recently. They had 3 or 4 communication specialists who were working and creating content and really just doing a lot, right? But it was because the tool they had couldn't accommodate that set it and forget it mentality, or smart campaigns, different things like that. When they implemented their tool, and Preston, I think this is where we started, once they implemented the tool, they had to take a step back and say, how are we working as a team? And so as a part of the entire process with the audit, that's why we have to look at the people, the process, the publishing practices. Are we creating long form content that's taking 6 weeks to produce? True story, that was part of an audit. That we don't need to do anymore. And so taking a step back, what are we doing that we shouldn't be doing that'll save us time and resources to get us where we need to be?
Preston, what was when we were chatting before, this is a great situation where Kristen has notes and doesn't know what they mean. So,
I know where you're going.
You know where you're going, right? You know exactly.
Yeah, I think so.
Planning call, because we're on
Lindsay, I just me nodding when she was talking because she's absolutely right. And I hope this is where you were going, but we think about resources and budget. Ideal state is there's 3 buckets. We have
this is exactly we're on the same page.
And it's just because and it's in order. There's a reason why it's in this order. The first is systems and processes. So to Lindsay's point, how much time are people spending implementing content creation? Let's just stick with that as a category. I'll go back to that in a second because that's an important point. But there's X amount of this being spent on licenses or using a technology, but that I wouldn't call it necessarily a shadow cost, but sometimes it's not discussed how much time of these number of people are being spent doing things that they really don't need to be doing with better, faster, cheaper technology, right? So systems and processes. The second we touched on the very beginning is skills. Are we writing content the right way? Are we really looking at the trends that we're seeing in consuming content outside of work, of just people, and employing those when we create content internally? Or measurement. Do we really understand what measurement is beyond just the traditional dashboard? And then third is the technology and the tactics. So when we look at budget, how might we look at all 3 of those things? Let's not forget on the second bucket of skills and capabilities, are we investing in our people? So, so that we're evolving the craft together and honing our own skills and the skills within our team to think differently and then do differently based on different expectations for how we communicate at work. So I always like to put that out there, because if the budgets traditionally are what they are, the 90% on technology and tactics, and you're forgetting those other things, well, then it's not sustainable.
And I think we can all see examples of this. I know I definitely have. in other aspects of your life, right? If you buy a gym membership at a really fancy, expensive gym and you never set foot in the door, you're probably not going to see the benefits of having that gym membership, right? I invested in technology for Ecology a couple of months ago, like a marketing system. And same thing. I knew that if I could spend the money on the tool, but if I don't spend money on investing in my own training and how to use it and when to, all those things, it's useless and I've wasted thousands of dollars. Well, extrapolate that into potentially millions for some large companies if they're looking at tools. Lanice loves your comment. She had a manager who was mortified when she started tracking how long it would take to craft an email. That's a great move, Lanice. That is a great move. I love that.
Lanice, I had a client who did that and I challenged her. She was like, this email I do every Friday, it doesn't even reach our hourly workers and frontline, but I probably spend 4 to 8 hours a week on it on any given week. And then sometimes there are changes and you have to do a retraction. And I said, can you start tracking that? We're going to try to sunset it. We're going to change it. We're going to gradually phase it out 2 weeks every month and then make it go away. And then let's make the case and show how much you just saved the organization and how much value you're able to add in other places that are more essential to an organization that's growing and has really expanded leaps and bounds in the past year since you launched this tool.
Mm-hmm.
Love that.
When we talk about modernization of the comms function, there's constant, and some people, this works for some organizations and some not, but the concept of agency on the inside, at least what I'd highly recommend is just having a conversation as a team about what agency on the inside means or feels like, right? Because everyone's bringing different baggage, conscious or unconscious, about working with an agency. I'm doing air quotes. But what it does is you can talk about the benefits and time tracking. How much time are we spending on something? And that's inclusive of how much time are we spending serving or partnering with a leader or a specific function as an internal stakeholder, to be able to say, yes, some of it equates to real dollars. And by the way, yeah, you should know how much it costs for each person on your team, ish. But then also to say, look, it turns out that, yeah, it does feel like we're spending the majority of our time with this group or team. And here's the data to support that. That type of thinking tends to be really productive.
One of the things I would love for people to hear on this call, and this is going to be, it'll be shameless self-promotion for both of you, and I don't care. What I want people to understand is the value of bringing in a consultant agency, call whatever term you want, a third-party person, before you have signed a contract with someone. Because I think there's some misconceptions about that, or maybe just it's not top of mind. I think it's common for people to think, okay, we're buying this platform, we're going to need some help implementing it, so let's find an agency to help. That seems a little more standard, but I would love for people to understand, is there, I don't want to say hand-holding, support, cheerleading support from your two perspectives on working with people before they sign a contract with a vendor?
Let me go first, Lindsay.
Sure. So, excuse me, just hit about the 1 year mark with an organization that I started with them doing an audit and figuring out through focus groups what it was that their employees really cared about. They knew that their channels probably weren't working. They had launched some really great, good for now, help the organization get through COVID and the pandemic, but they knew it was time to elevate the communications along with the way the company was growing and elevating and expanding and hyper growth. And so we started there and went through the implementation. Having someone on the outside allows you to pull from and also grow your team. So one of the things that I'll do is work with the teams as they're going through the process of implementing in that audit, where we look at what are your publishing practices, what are your processes, and really helping them to evolve those so that whenever they launch it, they're set up and ready to go instead of still doing things the way they used to do. A lot of times that'll look like a series of workshops, one-on-one coaching. Sometimes it's behind the scenes. They just need help getting things done. Hey, we need a governance. We didn't think about this. Have you done this before? And we have our eyes and ears in so many different industries and organizations to pull that collective expertise and just infuse that into the team and help strengthen them. I think it's incredibly invaluable, and it creates a really strong partnership of trust. And whenever they do get questions from executives, they have somebody to turn to and say, how do we answer this? How do we fix this solution using our new tool instead of doing it the way we used to do?
Preston, I want to, so I know you're going to answer this, but I was, as part of your answer, I would also love to know, this is like insider trading info. I feel like the price is never the price. Is this true? Tell the people the truth.
It's so true. It is so true. I'm so glad you said it. It is so true. Yes, and that illustrates a couple of really important points. First, let's staying on the digital channel or digital tools topic. Shopping for technology is fun. It's fun. Many of us, like to shop. It feels good to have a budget and like spend it, and in general, in life, at work, whatever. What is important to understand is by partnering with a true partner, we're not there to do your job. We're there to enable you to do the right work faster. That's the value we provide, and hopefully better, and to that point, why ask the same questions everybody else is asking? It's a waste of everybody's time. If we have some of those answers and we could save, a month of research in a conversation because we already have a bunch of the answers across multiple platforms, it serves everyone. And that's really important because ultimately all the vendors are also, as I like to think, interested in fit. They may know that they're not the best fit for certain organizations for certain reasons. The sooner we can get to that, the better. So that's some of it. The other comment I wanted to make on just the question was, nothing hurts more than realizing you missed an opportunity. And where I'm going with this is when, let's say, we're launching or considering a new digital tool or channel for our organization, to stay siloed in our thinking and say, yes, we need to talk to IT about, data and their perspective on this type of technology, name the technology across all the work tech apps, doesn't matter. What we also see is that just a little bit of prep work, and sometimes we can just do this in one conversation. Oh, these are other questions to ask, or these are some other things you need to look for. Watch out for these things. We provide a ton of value really quickly. The work's still being done by that person, but also there's opportunities that we can take advantage of early and often. Nothing's worse than being way down the road and then you're making those recommendations and you miss the opportunity to build trust in the relationships by thinking strategically, by sharing other relevant data to help build the case, to surface those things that other priorities that might exist that IT is curious about, and you as a communicator might be just facilitating. Oh yeah, did you know that these are some of the other challenges HR are having? Y'all can talk about it, but at least you're seen as making those connections. So, focusing on not missing those opportunities early and often is just something that you're going to take real seriously when thinking about a plan for a movement.
I had no idea until Preston brought it up when we were chatting before the call that there are over 150 so far-ish solutions that you could look at. Tools.
Oh, we're double that now. I mean,
okay, this is terrifying to me. So
what's a great point?
But this is what I'm saying. So part of working with experts, agencies, consultants, whatever, is that that's your job, is to know what tools are out there and what's new and what's what. And I doubt that anyone could possibly keep up with every single update on every single solution, but there are tools. I've been in this industry for a while, and there are tools that Preston's listed off that I'm like, I've never heard of that before. So that's where relying on outside partners to help with that can be very beneficial, because you don't know what you don't know, right? Put very simply, I think. Here's a rapid fire question for both of you. Have you ever seen a be all end all, one size fits all, does everything everyone ever needs it to do software solution for internal comms? Just say no. The answer is no.
No,
of course not.
No,
of course not. Just seriously, I think part of we need to define what internal comms is.
Fair.
Right. So, by the way, just to be really clear, yes, there's 100 to 50 to 200 just intranet solutions alone. But what does that even mean? So when we think hundreds, that's inclusive of better enterprise search, or better polling and listening technology, or better employee engagement, inquiry or survey platforms, or we get a lot of, well, how can we think differently about town halls and live action results for certain listening, so there's that's why we broaden it to comms tech. And then there's work tech, and comms tech is an element of that. And there's HR tech, part of work tech, right? So what's happening is there's such an influx of this ecosystem, and there's just, the numbers are growing. We have to now get smarter about, when we think this, what is that? How do we contextualize these things? What are the cost ranges or expectations? Or like I was saying, budget for what we know we need, but make sure that we're also thinking about less expensive solutions that can be, a part of that. The other good news, by the way, to sound on a positive note, is across the expanding ecosystem, the good news is a lot of these all integrate with each other, which is important. So, content creation might be a category, video capture on your phone. Well, the good news is you can, that's integrated into a lot of different technologies, where the technologies intranet as a backbone, if you will, has open API. They can integrate into these others. So that goes back to the point, the world has quickly evolved, and we all need to really understand how it's wired so that we can, think about tech.
Lindsay, I want to hear your thoughts on, because I know you've done quite a few launches of technology. And I feel like anyone who has done a tech solution launch has probably gone also through some therapy as a result of that, because it is a situation to go through, anyone who has launched an intranet or whatever. So I have a question in the comments that I want to get to about content planning, but I want to know, one of the things Lindsay said right off the gate when we were having this planning call was, don't go light on the launch. And I want to know what you mean by that, Lindsay.
Don't go light on the launch of, so I've launched 2 mobile apps in-house previously. One of them, beginning to end from contract signed to launch day, was 26 days. Not fun. Yes, I have a wonderful therapist. She's amazing. Highly recommend getting one if you do that. The other thing is, I had another that it was a slow roll. And one was an organization of 1,800 employees. The other was 30,000. And there were a lot of, acquisitions that had been merged into the organization that we were going through. So we went slower, but we were able to be more intentional in that one, where we started with the leaders first. And so being intentional about your approach and making sure, there's so many ways to do it, but be intentional, be thoughtful, bring your leaders in from the beginning, and think about, even if you do start slow with a pilot and, maybe 2 or 3 phases of pilots, go all in. Don't let other little, if there are tools out there that you're going to sunset them sooner than later, so people adopt your tool in the beginning and you don't waste the resources and time and effort that you're putting into the launch. Incentives, people love free stuff. Get them, outside of anything HR would disagree with, bribe them, get them on the app or the internet or whatever it is. Really go big, be intentional, and think about, we're going to do this now, but then how do we keep that buzz going? So the launch isn't just the first 2 or 3 months. I would say the first year and a half.
If you are in internal comms, you should not be above bribery. I will just say that. I've never been above bribery in my work life, because that's how you get money and tools, et cetera, et cetera. Preston, post-launch investments. Now, actually, let's bring up here. Here we go. Here's the question. So do you know of any organizations, when we're talking about, now AI could be, it's a whole other hour-long discussion. However, I know that there are some tools that are starting to use AI for content creation. I use HubSpot for ecology, and they're using it. As far as I know, First Up Simpler are starting to implement some AI features in their tools. Pop in the chat if you know of more. Do you two know, are you seeing people using AI to truly do full content creation, or is it more just to spark content posts? Or are you not seeing it all yet?
Definitely seeing it. I think it's more the latter around, like we know is that, the content's not going to be perfect, but there's so many examples of how using AI tools for content creation or to support some ideas are just super helpful and effective. Just as maybe it's helpful when we think about AI, we think of three core categories. First being creation. So really where this question is. And yes, many organizations are using it. And it's just like many things as technology evolves, even the organizations that say they're not, just they are. People are. Period. And then second, insight. So, that's what we're also seeing is kind of next. The third, by the way, is really efficiency and process, which we're not really there yet because we're just not in terms of majority, even a minority of really understanding how some of these tools can make our overall systems and processes and measurement that much more effective. But back to the creation, there are some very specific things that work really, really well that are really good examples of, well, we need to do this. Back to the conversation 15 minutes ago, because our competitors are, and we're leaving money on the table where we're wasting money. I mean, there's so much inefficiency of not using some of the emerging tech the right way, which is, of course, the key point.
I would agree. And I think that what I'm seeing across different organizations, all different industries and levels of like technological sophistication and maturity within the teams and the organizations is if the comms teams aren't adopting it, within 3 to 6 weeks, maybe 10 weeks, I will find others in the organization through an audit or whatnot who send me things that were generated by ChatGPT because I copied and pasted in there and said, ChatGPT, did you generate this? Where the comms team says nobody in our organization is using it. So I think if you think that others in your organization or your organization's not, they are. Even if it's blocked by the firewall, they find a way to do it because they've figured out it's a great starting point and they're more efficient. I highly recommend it. There are a lot of things to consider from governance and guardrails and really protecting proprietary information. But I'm seeing it being added on to, if it's not already on a tool, teams are using it. And they're getting better and smarter. And that's one way that they're proving value to their organization because comms teams can say, here's how you can leverage it, but also thinking about those secondary and third level content publishers throughout the organization, giving them that as a starting point of here's some prompts to use to help you write something. And here are the guidelines, a one pager really helps elevate comms across the organization. And I think there are a lot of really fun ways to do it.
I'm being added here. So Interact apparently also has this. Axios, HQ. So lots of companies are, and like I was mentioning earlier, everything external is jumping on this train as well. Yeah. Eventbrite has an amazing AI generating tool that I am not embarrassed. So I have a very healthy ego, as many people know. And I was like, well, surely AI will not be able to write a description better than I could. And guess what? It's damn near perfect. So again, it's only going to be more elevated. And I think for how many conferences have the three of us been to where the prevailing complaint is, I don't have time to be more strategic. I'm so bogged down with tasks and daily things and newsletters and crap that I don't have time to be more strategic. Guess what? Don't fear the AI piece of it because that's going to let you be more strategic. But like I said, that could be a whole other conversation.
Yeah, fear. Anything new is scary.
Yes,
and I think that we're all in our path that we know we're all on. It's so early and we're still there. As a serial optimist, I've been so excited, kind of so intellectually stimulated. I can't sleep at night knowing that when we, to your point around being more strategic is a very important one. But then also, we've never seen anything before that really says that yes, I can spend less of my time doing things I don't need to be doing and more times taking care of my health, being with my children and, focusing on my relationships, all of these things. There's never been a moment like this. And so I'm looking forward to the coming months and years where we're really starting to see the results of that time back.
Preston, that is a lovely little optimistic note for us to wrap. I love it. So what I want to hear from both of you as we wrap up here, I would love to know, Lindsay, I'll start with you. What is the nugget of wisdom or piece of advice that you would love to impart on people who are tech tool shopping right now?
Be curious and don't assume that it will actually work the way they say it will.
That's a hot take.
Might be Lessons learned.
I like it. I like it. And again, having people who have worked in depth with the product in the past is going to be a huge help for you, whether that's an outside person, a past customer, whatever that is. Because the other piece that this is always very, very important to me. I don't know if it's a universal thing or if it's just a Christianism, but for me, it's very important to work with people and companies that I enjoy working with, right?
You're going to be working. So important.
Yeah. You're going to be working with them nonstop all the time, especially leading up to that launch and a little bit post-launch. You want a company that gets it. You want a company that's going to have your back, to be supportive, all of those things. So that's always my supportive piece of advice. Preston, what is your nugget of wisdom and advice to impart with the crew?
I think that the short answer is often advice is free.
Oh,
many people, I talk to people every day that, we didn't reach out to this consultant or that person to ask questions because we thought that, they may be interested in a project. That's not, many of us who do this work have been doing it a long time, get it. We've been there. And that what I'm saying is that by enrolling and getting the right advice earlier is just so powerful for so many people on both sides of the call or the meeting. So it's, ask for advice and for help early. And then if there's a fit and there's a need for some work, I know I can speak for many kind of consultants and contract, we only do our best work together when there's a good fit and there's a reason to work together. Ask those questions that, so that you can also share those answers with everyone, right? And that's how we're going to elevate this work and our craft together.
And I'm going to do a shameless plug that Kristen's probably going to blush at, of ask and share. What I've found is the internal communications community, because it is such a relatively new field. Most of us didn't go to school for internal comms. I, for one, didn't know it was even an option, right? And I've found that the community is so willing to freely give and wants you to be successful because they've had to blaze trails on their own, and they want you to learn from their mistakes and their, the good things they've done as well. So they don't want you to be alone because chances are they may have done it alone in the past, and they don't want that for you. And that's why Icology adds so much value.
Well, thanks. I'll take that shameless plug. That's totally shameless. I love it. Okay, so let's do here. I'm going to create a little bit. Preston, where can people find Intactic?
I would say the easiest person and place in the world to find is just the website on LinkedIn. Just Google Preston.
What are we? Intactic.com?
Intactic.com.
Look at this. God, I'm so quick. Unbelievable. Love it. And Preston has a relatively new program called Tech Verified by Intactic that I will plug for him because I think it's a really cool opportunity. I was actually telling an Icology group of members earlier today about this too. Totally free program where they will help you evaluate tools because that's Preston's jam. So reach out to him if you have questions about that. Oh, Ed says, I heart Icology. Ed, I hope you're coming to San Francisco, across the bridge or wherever you are. Lindsay, where's the best place for people to find you?
LinkedIn is great, or frankadvisors.com.
Oh, how fast can I type a banner? That fast.
Nice.
Amazing. Thank you to both of you. I am so appreciative of you both being here. There's so much wisdom on this panel. To everyone who's joined us, thank you for being here as well. Reach out to Lindsay and or Preston. They're both on LinkedIn. Both have wonderfully successful businesses, would be more than happy to help you out. Join Icology. We've got an event in Chicago in August, a newly announced event in Sioux Falls that actually Lindsay is speaking at in September. And then we're going to be in San Francisco in November. That is our wrap up of amazing, cool things. Maybe Preston will be with us in San Francisco. I'm putting him on the spot here. We'll see.
Looking at dates now.
I love it. I love it. Okay. Thanks everyone so much for being here. Join us for our next Icology Presents, which is yet to be announced. In the meantime, have the very best week. Happy Monday. We will see you all again. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.